The purple light of distant stars glowed on Commander Vix Thorne's scaled skin as he stood on the bridge of the Carthaxian warship Inevitable Conquest *. His six-fingered hand tapped impatiently on the control panel. "Report," he ordered. A junior officer bowed low. "We have detected unusual energy patterns from the third planet in this system, Commander. The readings suggest early faster-than-light technology." Vix Thorne smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Another world to add to the glory of the Carthaxian Empire. His superiors would be pleased. 200 species already served the Empire, and now they have found another. "Prepare the fleet for first contact protocol. Remember, we show them our strength first, then we offer them the chance to join us. They always submit." Captain Kevin Wright of the United Earth Defense Force stood tall on the bridge of the UES Defiant. The ship was Earth's newest pride, a marvel of technology with its sleek design and powerful engines. The Defiant patrolled the outer edge of the solar system, near Neptune's blue glow. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Communications Officer John Miller. His eyes were fixed on the glowing screen in front of him. Multiple objects entering the system. They're moving faster than anything we've ever recorded. Wright leaned forward. Natural objects. Lieutenant Alice Burton shook her head as she studied the weapons console. "No way, sir. The movement patterns are too regular. These are ships. Big ones." Wright felt his heart beat faster. After years of looking to the stars and wondering if humanity was alone, they finally had their answer. "Send word to Earth Command immediately. First contact protocol is now active." He turned to his crew. "Whatever happens next will go down in human history. Let's make sure it's a story our grandchildren will be proud to tell." In the United Nations Emergency Council on Earth, leaders from around the world gathered to face the biggest moment in human history. Screens showed the approaching alien fleet. Hundreds of massive ships with strange designs, unlike anything human architects had imagined. "They're not answering our greeting messages," said General Howard of the North American Alliance. "What do we do?" Dr. Olivia Grant, Earth's newly appointed diplomatic lead, spoke calmly. "We keep trying. Different frequencies, different languages. We don't know how they communicate." The room fell silent as a new image appeared on the main screen. The alien fleet had arranged itself in a perfect formation above Earth's moon. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "My God," someone whispered. "There are so many of them." On the Defiant, now recalled to Earth orbit as part of humanity's defensive line, Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez worked furiously to boost the ship's shields. "I don't like this, Captain," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Those ships are at least 3 times our size, and there are hundreds of them." Captain Wright nodded. "Keep working, Sam. If they turn out to be friendly, we'll throw them a party. If not..." He didn't finish the sentence. The first message from the aliens came 3 days after their arrival. It displayed on screens worldwide. A tall, reptilian creature with purple scales and cold black eyes. "People of Earth," the translation read, "I am Ambassador Zilvex of the Carthaxian Empire, rulers of the 3 arms of the galaxy. Your planet has been chosen to join our glorious civilization. Resistance is unnecessary and unwelcome. You have much to gain from submission and everything to lose from defiance." Dr. Grant composed the human response carefully. "We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization and look forward to learning about each other. Earth is open to friendship, cultural exchange, and mutual respect." Commander Vix Thorne watched the human response with amusement. "They speak of friendship and respect," he told his officers. "They all do it first, but they will learn, as 200 species before them have learned, that the Carthaxian Empire does not make friends. It makes subjects." He did not know that humans were different. He did not know that in all their history, humans had never truly mastered the art of submission. He did not know that he should run. The International Space Station had never looked so small, Once the pride of human space achievement, it now floated like a toy beside the massive Carthaxian diplomatic vessel. Inside the station's largest module, Dr. Olivia Grant straightened her blue uniform and waited. When Ambassador Zilvex entered, flanked by 4 guards with strange weapons, Dr. Grant had to control her surprise. The Carthaxian stood nearly 8 feet tall, with purple scales that shimmered under the lights. "The terms of your integration are simple," Ambassador Zilvex said without greeting. His translator device gave his words a metallic echo. "Earth will provide resources and soldiers. In return, you receive Carthaxian protection and technology." Dr. Grant kept her voice steady. "Ambassador, we appreciate your offer, but Earth is not seeking to be integrated. We propose a treaty between equals instead." The Carthaxians' black eyes blinked slowly. In 200 years of expanding their empire, no species had ever suggested equality. "Equality?" Zilvex made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have 3 colony worlds. We have 12,000. Your ships barely reach light speed. Ours cross galaxies. There is no equality here." Captain Wright stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the massive Carthaxian fleet through the view screen. His orders were clear: gather information but avoid confrontation. "What do you think, Alice?" he asked Lieutenant Burton, who hadn't left her weapons station in hours. She frowned at her readings. "Their weapons are like nothing we've seen, Captain, but their ships followed the same patterns over and over. No variation. It's like they're running on automatic." Communications Officer Miller looked up from his station. "Sir, I've been listening to their communications. They always follow the same procedures, the same phrases. It's like they haven't had to think about battle in centuries." Wright nodded slowly. "An empire that always wins doesn't need to innovate. Remember that." In the White House war room, military leaders from around the world gathered as Dr. Grant reported on the failed negotiations. "They've given us 30 days to submit," she said. "After that, they begin what they call pacification of Earth." General Howard slammed his fist on the table. "We should strike first, use everything we have, and be destroyed immediately." Dr. Grant shook her head. "Their technology is far beyond ours." "But," she paused, thinking about Captain Wright's reports, "they may have weaknesses we can exploit. They expect us to either surrender or fight conventionally. We need to do neither." On the Carthaxian command ship, Commander Vix Thorne reviewed the human historical records his spies had collected. What he saw confused him. "These humans fight constantly," he told his officers, "not just against other species, but against themselves. For thousands of years, they have waged war on each other." His second-in-command leaned closer to the screen. "Is that a strength or weakness, Commander?" Vix Thorne's scales darkened slightly. "I'm not sure. Most species we encounter have either peaceful histories or fought only for survival. These humans seem to fight for ideas, for land, for resources, for religion. They fight for everything." Back on the Defiant, Chief Engineer Rodriguez rushed into the bridge. "Captain, I've been studying their shield frequencies. They use the same patterns across their entire fleet. If we can disrupt one, we might disrupt them all." Wright finished. He turned to Miller. "Send this information to Earth Command immediately, and prepare the ship for possible combat. I have a feeling our 30 days might be cut short." Ambassador Zilvex reported to his superiors via secure channel. "The humans continue to delay. They ask for time to consider our generous offer." He made the Carthaxian gesture of contempt. Like all lesser species, they simply need time to accept their fate. The High Commander's image flickered on the screen. "Do not underestimate new species, Zilvex. It is the one mistake the Empire cannot afford." "These humans are primitive," Zilvex insisted. "They will submit or be destroyed like all the others." That night, as Earth's leaders made plans and the Carthaxian fleet waited in orbit, Captain Wright stood alone in his quarters looking at a picture of his family. "We won't submit," he whispered to the empty room. "Not now, not ever." Across the void of space, Commander Vix Thorne continued reading human war histories with growing unease. Something about these humans bothered him. Something he couldn't quite name. Neither man knew it yet, but the galaxy was about to change forever. Commander Vix Thorne paced the bridge of his flagship. 28 Earth days had passed since delivering the Empire's ultimatum, and still the humans delayed. His patience was ending. "They mock us with their silence," he told his officers. "It is time they learned the cost of disrespect." His second-in-command looked nervous. "The deadline has not yet passed, Commander." Vix Thorne's eyes narrowed. "The Empire does not wait for lesser beings. Prepare a strike force. Target their lunar colony. A small demonstration of our power will speed their decision." On Earth's moon, the Armstrong colony housed 12,000 civilians. Scientists, engineers, and their families lived under the protective domes, believing themselves safe despite the Carthaxian fleet above. The first blast came without warning. Alarms blared through the colony as emergency shields activated. Colony Governor Paul Wilson shouted into his comm unit, "Earth Command, we are under attack." Repeat, "Armstrong Colony is under attack." In Earth's orbital defense center, General Howard watched in horror as 5 Carthaxian warships descended on the lunar colony. "Get our ships up there now," he ordered, "and contact Dr. Grant. Tell the Carthaxians they've broken their own deadline." Captain Wright was already moving the Defiant toward the moon when the orders came through. 6 other Earth ships joined him, forming a desperate defense line between the attacking Carthaxians and the colony. "All hands to battle stations," Wright ordered, his voice calm despite the odds. "Remember your training. Remember Earth is watching." Lieutenant Burton looked up from her weapons console. "Sir, their shields are configured exactly as Engineer Rodriguez predicted. Should we try the disruption frequency?" Wright nodded. "Target their lid ship. Let's see if our theory works." Commander Vix Thorne smiled as his ships approached the colony. The puny human vessels rushing to defend it would be easy to destroy. His gunners had their orders: disable the human ships, then destroy 20% of the colony as a lesson. "Human vessels approaching, Commander," reported his tactical officer. "They appear to be attempting to form a defensive line." Vix Thorne laughed. "Let them try. Standard attack formation. This will be over quickly." "Fire," Wright ordered. The Defiant's main weapons fired a specially modified pulse, not aimed at the Carthaxian ship's hull, but at a specific point in its shield pattern where Rodriguez had identified a potential weakness. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive alien ship's shields flickered and partially collapsed. "It worked," Burton shouted. "Their shields are down to 40%. Before the Carthaxian ship could recover, Wright gave his next order: "All ships, concentrate fire on the same target." Vix Thorne stumbled as his flagship shuddered under unexpected fire. Warning lights flashed across control panels. "What happened?" he demanded. "Shield failure, Commander. The humans, they've somehow disrupted our shield harmonics." "Impossible," Vix Thorne hissed. "No primitive species called." Another blast rocked the ship. 3 more followed as the small Earth fleet concentrated their fire with surprising coordination. "Return fire," Vix Thorne ordered. "Destroy them." The battle above the lunar colony lasted only 20 minutes, but it changed everything. When it ended, 2 Carthaxian ships were heavily damaged, including Vix Thorne's flagship. 1 Earth vessel had been destroyed, and 3 others damaged. But the colony remained safe. As the Carthaxian ships retreated to regroup, Captain Wright allowed himself a small smile. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them we've proven the Empire isn't invincible." In his damaged flagship, Commander Vix Thorne watched the recording of the battle again and again. The human ships had not followed any battle doctrine he recognized. They had taken risks no rational species would consider, sacrificing one of their own vessels in a maneuver that allowed the others to attack from an unexpected angle. "These humans don't fight like the others," he told his second-in-command. "They fight like like they've been at war forever. He pulled up the human historical records again, studying accounts of their many conflicts. What he found disturbed him deeply. While the Empire had conquered hundreds of peaceful worlds or species that fought only when threatened, humans had been fighting continuous wars against themselves for thousands of years. They were not just warriors when needed. War was in their history, their culture, their blood. "Send word to the Imperial fleet," Vix Thorn ordered. "We need reinforcements. Many reinforcements." For the first time in his long military career, Commander Vix Thorn felt something unfamiliar. It took him a moment to recognize it. It was doubt. The sky above Earth darkened as 300 new Carthaxian warships joined the existing fleet. Their massive hulls blocked the sun in some areas, casting strange shadows across cities below. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Earth's military leaders watched the growing threat. "They've tripled their forces," General Howard said grimly. "This is their answer to our resistance." Dr. Grant studied the tactical display. "They still expect us to follow conventional warfare rules, to meet their strength with our strength." "But we can't," said a voice from the doorway. Captain Wright had just arrived from orbit, his uniform still bearing scorch marks from the lunar battle. "So we don't fight on their terms. We activate Protocol Hydra." General Howard's eyes widened. "That's a desperation plan." "We are desperate," Wright replied simply. Commander Vix Thorn stood before the holographic image of the Imperial High Command. His recent failure demanded explanation. "The humans employed unexpected tactics," he reported. "They targeted specific shield frequencies and used sacrificial maneuvers no rational species would attempt." The High Commander's scaled face showed no emotion. "Your failure is disappointing, Commander, but now you have sufficient forces to crush this resistance properly." Vix Thorn bowed. "It will be done. Within 1 Earth week, these humans will submit or burn." Protocol Hydra was unlike anything the Earth forces had attempted before. Instead of concentrating their ships for defense, they scattered them throughout the solar system. Small, fast vessels hid among Saturn's rings. Others used the asteroid belt for cover. Some even hid in the atmospheres of gas giants, using the radiation and storms to mask their presence. On the damaged but still operational Defiant, Captain Wright briefed his crew on their role. "We're not trying to win battles," he explained. "We're aiming to confuse, disrupt, and drain their resources. Hit and run, never engage directly." Lieutenant Burton nodded. "Fight like the resistance fighters in our history, like the smaller forces that defeated empires." "Exactly," Wright said. "The Carthaxians have never fought humans before. Let's show them why that was lucky for them." The first strike of Protocol Hydra came from the ice moons of Neptune. 10 small Earth vessels emerged from hiding, attacked a Carthaxian supply ship, and vanished back into the darkness before the escort vessels could respond. The second strike came from within Mercury's blinding glare, disabling 2 Carthaxian patrol ships. The third strike targeted communications relays, leaving sections of the Carthaxian fleet temporarily cut off from command. Vix Thorn slammed his fist against the tactical display as another report of a hit-and-run attack came in. "Find them," he roared. "How can a primitive species hide from our sensors?" His tactical officer looked nervous. "Commander, they're using environmental factors we normally ignore. They hide in radiation belts, in atmospheric storms, in debris fields. Our systems are calibrated for detecting ships in optimal conditions. Not this chaos." "Recalibrate them," Vix Thorn ordered. "And divide the fleet. We will hunt down each of their ships one by one." The officer hesitated. "Dividing our forces may be what they want, Commander." Vix Thorn's scales darkened with anger. "Do you suggest we allow these primitives to mock the Empire with these attacks?" "Divide the fleet as ordered." The Defiant lurked in the shadow of a large asteroid, engines cold to avoid detection. On the bridge, Engineer Rodriguez approached Captain Wright with excitement. "Captain, I've been studying the salvaged parts from that Carthaxian scout ship we disabled. Their weapons are powerful, but their targeting systems are designed for large-scale battles, not small targets. Wright nodded. So the smaller we appear, the harder we are to hit. Exactly, Rodriguez grinned. And I've modified our mining lasers to exploit a weakness in their hull design. It won't destroy their larger ships, but it can disable their engines with precision strikes. Wright smiled for the first time in days. Prepare the modifications. We strike their command group next. In her secure facility, Dr. Grant continued sending messages to the Carthaxians, offering to negotiate. Each message was designed not just as a peace offering, but to gather intelligence from the responses. They don't understand compromise, she told her team after analyzing the latest Carthaxian reply. They've never needed to develop diplomatic skills because they've always won through force. She looked at the star chart showing the scattered Earth ships implementing Protocol Hydra. But force isn't working against us the way they expected, and they don't know what to do about it. 2 weeks into the conflict, the Carthaxian war room buzzed with frustrated activity. Wall screens displayed the locations of their ships across the solar system, many of them blinking with damage reports. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking and vanishing before the mighty Carthaxian fleet could respond. This defies all battle logic, said the chief military analyst. Their ships are inferior, their weapons are weaker, their numbers are smaller, yet they continue to damage our fleet. Commander Vix Thorne stared at the main screen, where recorded images of Earth's history played in sequence. Ancient battles with swords and shields, medieval wars with primitive firearms, modern conflicts with tanks and planes, nuclear standoffs, guerrilla fighting. It's because they've never stopped fighting, he said quietly. Every other species we conquered either lived in peace or fought only when attacked. But humans have been fighting each other continuously for thousands of years. They've had to innovate, to find ways for the weak to defeat the strong. He turned to his officers. We must understand how humans think. We need to study their combat psychology. The UES Defiant drifted silently near Jupiter's largest moon, its hull scorched from recent battles. Inside, Captain Wright gathered his remaining officers around the tactical table. We've hurt them, he said, but we're running out of ships and supplies. We need a bigger victory. Lieutenant Burton looked exhausted but determined. Sir, our scouts report that the Carthaxian command ship has moved to Mars orbit to direct operations against our colonies there. Wright's eyes lit up. Then we'll strike at the head. Engineer Rodriguez, is your new weapon ready? Rodriguez nodded. The modified mining laser is installed. It can penetrate their command ship's engines if we get close enough, but we'd need a distraction. I'll handle that, Wright said. We attack in 6 hours. The plan was simple but dangerous. 3 small Earth vessels would create a diversion, attacking Carthaxian patrol ships near Mars. While the fleet responded, the Defiant would slip close to the command ship and disable its engines. What they didn't expect was the trap. As the Defiant approached the massive command ship, hidden weapons batteries activated, catching them in a crossfire. Evasive maneuvers, Wright shouted as the bridge shook around them. Too late. Rodriguez called out as a direct hit caused systems to fail across the ship. We're being pulled in by their tractor beam. Lieutenant Alice Burton woke up in a cold cell. Her head throbbed where she'd been struck during the boarding of the Defiant. The cell door slid open, and Commander Vix Thorne himself entered, towering above her. You fight well, he said, studying her with those alien black eyes. But it's over now. Burton met his gaze without fear. It's not over until we're all dead. Why? Vix Thorne asked, genuinely curious. Why not surrender when defeat is certain? Every other species we've encountered calculates the odds and submits when resistance becomes futile. Burton smiled grimly. You still don't get it. Humans don't always fight to win. Sometimes we fight because it's right, even when we know we'll lose. That is irrational, Vix Thorne stated. That is human, Burton replied. In his private quarters, Vix Thorne reviewed the interrogation recordings of the human prisoners. Each showed the same incomprehensible determination. Even facing certain death, none offered to betray Earth or beg for mercy. His second-in-command entered with a report. "Commander, we've lost another supply ship in the asteroid belt, and reports of unrest are coming from recently conquered systems. Word of the human resistance is spreading." Vix Thorne's scales darkened with worry. The human equation changes everything. If other species learned from them. He didn't finish the thought. For 2 centuries, the Empire had relied on the certainty that rational beings would submit rather than face destruction. But humans had introduced chaos into that equation. On Earth, Dr. Grant received the news of the Defiant's capture with grim determination. Captain Wright and his crew knew the risks. She told General Howard, "Now we must ensure their sacrifice means something." She pointed to reports from their remaining ships. "The Carthaxians are dividing their fleet into smaller groups, trying to chase down our vessels. They're getting frustrated, making mistakes. But they're still overwhelmingly powerful," Howard objected. "Numbers and technology aren't everything," Grant replied. "The greatest empires in human history have fallen to smaller forces who simply refuse to give up. The Carthaxians have never faced an enemy who keeps fighting after they should surrender." She looked at the battle map. "And that's exactly why we'll win. Because we're human." The Imperial High Command's patience had run out. After a month of embarrassing defeats against the primitive humans, they dispatched their ultimate weapon, the Planet Breaker, a massive ship capable of rendering Earth uninhabitable within hours. "This ends now," the High Commander told Vix Thorne through the secure channel. "No more clever tactics. No more understanding human psychology. We will show them and any watching species the price of defying the Empire." Vix Thorne bowed his head, but inside, he felt an unfamiliar emotion: doubt. In his studies of human history, he had learned that pushing humans to the edge rarely led to surrender. It usually led to their most extreme acts of resistance. "As you command," he said anyway. "The Planet Breaker will arrive in 3 Earth days." In the holding cells of the Carthaxian command ship, Captain Wright worked on his restraints. For 3 days, he had carefully weakened the alien metal by rubbing it against a small piece of broken wall panel. Lieutenant Burton watched from across the cell. "Even if we get free, what's the plan? We're in the middle of their fleet." Wright smiled grimly. "Engineer Rodriguez installed a backdoor in their computer system when they downloaded our ship's data. If we can reach a terminal, we can broadcast directly to every ship in their fleet." "Broadcast what?" "The truth about humans," Wright said. "The thing that scares them most." On Earth, intelligence agencies intercepted communications about the Planet Breaker's approach. In the underground command center, Dr. Grant worked frantically with the remaining military leaders. "We have 3 days to find a way to stop it," General Howard said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Dr. Grant studied the reports from their spies and captured Carthaxian data. "We can't match its power," she admitted. "But perhaps we don't need to. The Carthaxians fear our unpredictability. Let's give them something truly unpredictable." That night, Wright and Burton made their move. Using the distraction of a small fire in a nearby cell, they overpowered 2 guards and made their way to a communication terminal. Burton stood watch while Wright worked feverishly at the alien interface. "Rodriguez's backdoor still works," he whispered excitedly. "I'm in their main system." "What now?" Burton asked, nervously watching the corridor. "Now we show them what they're really fighting," Wright said as he accessed the ship's broadcast system. "Not just ships and weapons, but humanity itself." Commander Vix Thorne was on the bridge when every screen suddenly changed. Instead of tactical displays and status reports, they showed images from Earth's history, not just wars, but the full story of human struggle and resilience. Children defending their homes with rocks against tanks, civilians forming human chains against armed soldiers, the endless creativity of human resistance throughout history, villages rebuilt after destruction, cities rising from ashes, hope persisting through the darkest hours. "What is this?" demanded his second-in-command. Before Vix Thorne could answer, Captain Wright's voice came through the speakers, broadcasting to the entire Carthaxian fleet. "You think you understand war because you've conquered peaceful worlds," Wright's voice rang out. "But humans were forged in conflict. We don't fight because we want to win. We fight because we refuse to lose. You can destroy our cities. You can burn our planet. But as long as one human lives, we will never stop fighting you." The images continued, humans rebuilding after disasters, helping each other through hardships, persisting against impossible odds. "This is what you face," Wright continued. "Not our weapons or our ships, but our spirit. We've fought ourselves for thousands of years. We know how to survive. We know how to endure. We know how to win against overwhelming odds." On a smaller ship in the Carthaxian fleet, a young officer turned to his commander, his scales pale with shock after watching the broadcast. "What kind of species fights like this?" he asked. "What kind of creatures keep fighting when victory is impossible?" The commander, a veteran of many campaigns, stared at the screen showing humans charging across a battlefield despite massive casualties, their faces determined rather than afraid. "The kind you run from," he said quietly. In the command center on Earth, Dr. Grant watched as the massive planet breaker entered the solar system. Her plan was in motion, a desperate gamble based on everything they had learned about the Carthaxians. She activated the emergency broadcast system. "All remaining ships, implement Operation Last Stand. This is not a drill." Across the solar system, Earth's surviving vessels emerged from hiding, not to attack, but to form a line between the planet breaker and Earth. The massive planet breaker moved slowly toward Earth, its weapon systems charging. Before it, a thin line of Earth ships stood in formation, the last defense of humanity. It was not a tactical position. The small vessels had no hope of stopping the planet killer. It was a statement. On the bridge of the planet breaker, Admiral Zixkull watched the human ships with confusion. "They must know they cannot stop us," he said. "Why do they not flee? Why do they not beg for mercy?" Commander Vix Thorne, summoned to witness Earth's destruction, stared at the screen. "Because they are human, Admiral. They do not calculate odds the way we do." As the planet breaker prepared to fire, a message arrived from the Imperial High Command. Admiral Zixkull read it with shock. This cannot be right." Across the Carthaxian Empire, something unprecedented was happening. On 12 recently conquered worlds, populations had risen up against their rulers, not with advanced weapons, but with the same desperate courage they had seen in the humans' broadcast, the same refusal to submit despite overwhelming odds. The broadcast that Captain Wright had sent through the fleet had spread beyond, to occupied worlds, and even to the Empire's home systems. For the first time in centuries, the Empire faced not one rebellion, but many. On the Carthaxian command ship, Captain Wright and Lieutenant Burton had been recaptured, but they smiled despite their injuries. They had accomplished their mission. They had shown the galaxy that resistance was possible. The High Command has ordered a ceasefire. A Carthaxian officer informed them grudgingly. "Your planet will not be destroyed, for now." Wright looked at Burton. They blinked first. 3 days later, a shuttle carried Dr. Grant to a space station orbiting Jupiter. For the first time in Carthaxian history, the Empire had requested formal peace talks with the species they had intended to conquer. The Imperial representative was not Vix Thorne or even Admiral Zixkull, but a member of the High Command itself, Lord Castor, whose scales were white with age and wisdom. "Your resistance has caused complications for the Empire," Lord Castor began without greeting. "Other worlds have taken inspiration from your example." Dr. Grant kept her expression neutral. "That was not our intention. We simply fought for our survival. Your methods of warfare are disturbing," the ancient Carthaxian continued. "You accept losses that no rational species would tolerate. You employ tactics that guarantee casualties among your own forces. We call it sacrifice, Grant replied. Sometimes, the few must risk everything to protect the many. Lord Castor's black eyes studied her. The Empire has existed for 2,000 years because every species we encountered made the same rational choice, to submit rather than be destroyed. You humans have broken that pattern. Now others believe they can do the same. 1 month later, the Carthaxian fleet departed Earth's solar system. The treaty they signed was unlike any in Imperial history, not a document of surrender, but a true peace agreement between equals. On the observation deck of the newly rebuilt UES Defiant, Captain Wright and Dr. Grant watched the alien ships vanish into the distance. "They'll be back someday," Wright said. "Not as conquerors, but they'll be back." Grant nodded. "And we'll be ready. Not just Earth, but humanity. We're going to the stars now, with eyes wide open." 6 cycles later, on a distant world at the edge of the galaxy, a Carthaxian exploration vessel encountered a warlike alien species. The aliens demanded the Carthaxians surrender their ship and technology. "And if we refuse?" asked the Carthaxian captain. The alien leader laughed. "Then we destroy you. We have conquered 12 star systems. None can stand against us." The Carthaxian captain studied their ships and weapons. They were powerful, but there was something familiar about their tactics. Straightforward, overwhelming force. So unlike the humans. "Where are you from?" he asked the alien. "The Dwarven Empire, the mightiest power in this sector," the alien boasted. The Carthaxian captain smiled. "We are from the Carthaxian Empire. We once ruled 3 arms of the galaxy. Would you like to know why we no longer try to conquer every world we find?" The alien leader laughed again. "Because you are weak." "No," said the Carthaxian. "Because we met humans." He opened a channel to his fleet. "Prepare for battle. These are not humans. We can win this one." On Earth, humanity continued to expand into space, building colonies and making peaceful contact with other species. They carried with them the lessons of the Carthaxian War, and a reputation that spread through the galaxy faster than their ships ever could. When asked what humans were like, other species would often say the same thing.